Discover the incredible moment when 12 waiters fled an unbearable rich man until one black woman, Sarah, had braced herself for another chaotic evening at La Lumiere, the high-end restaurant where the elite gathered in the heart of New York City. It was a place brimming with open flames, sparkling chandeliers, and the tantalizing smell of gourmet dishes prepared by renowned chefs. But beneath the luxury and sophistication, there was tension thicker than fog. The cause? Mr. Dalton, a rich patron who wielded his power like a sledgehammer, belittling anyone who crossed his path. The waitstaff dreaded his arrival, his words cut like knives, and on busy nights like this, his demands shattered the camaraderie they had built. As Sarah wiped down a table, a familiar dread twisted her stomach. She glanced around at the faces of her fellow waiters, 12 in total, with their bright uniforms and shared resolve. They were a mix of young dreamers and seasoned veterans, all fighting to keep their heads above water. But as her 4-year-old son, Jamie, played in her mind, his laughter filling the cracks of her weary heart, she knew she had to keep going. She needed this job. It meant everything. The night spiraled into chaos when Mr. Dalton, spotting Sarah with a half-empty cup of coffee, bellowed, "Can't you do anything right? I didn't order a half measure." The room went silent. Sarah's cheeks burned, her chest tightened. She felt all eyes on her. It was as if he had summoned the weight of their collective humiliation. Anger surged through the others, they exchanged looks filled with unspoken frustration. Then, something unexpected happened. One by one, her coworkers turned to one another, and without a word, they began to plot escape. Sarah hesitated, a core struggle tethering her between loyalty to her friends and the need to provide for Jamie. The fleeting moments felt like a whirlwind, hearts racing, the clink of glass shattering the tension. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. At that moment, something ignited within her. Memories flooded back, her mother's voice, firm and nurturing. "Stand up for yourself, Sarah. Don't let anyone shove you down." Rage fueled her resolve, breath steadying. She turned to her co-workers, buoyed by her own courage. "We can't let him do this to us. We just can't. Let us go back. Together." As if struck by a bolt of lightning, they rallied around her. Just when it seemed like they would walk out for good, they turned around. United, they marched back into the fray, ready to confront the embodiment of their struggles, Mr. Dalton. The energy buzzed around them, transforming fear into resilience. Would they finally reclaim their dignity? As they stood together, a fierce collective strength illuminated the restaurant's dimmed light. Sarah felt her heart pounding, breaths deepening, as tension buzzed like electricity in the air. The restaurant watched, collectively inhaling the moment, a moment frozen in time. Would they be able to confront not just a man but the very systems that allowed his behavior to thrive? The answer loomed, thick and heavy, leaving everyone waiting for what would happen next, hearts pounding in anticipation. Sarah stood at the forefront, her heart racing as the group steadied itself. She felt a ripple of determination surge through them, as if they were grounded in a shared mission. Looking around, she caught the gaze of each coworker, each face a reflection of pain and hope. "Let us show him who we are," she said, her voice stronger than she felt inside. A few murmurs of agreement echoed back, a chorus of defiance. As they approached Mr. Dalton's table, the atmosphere thickened. He hadn't noticed their return. He was too busy scrolling through his phone, oblivious to the tempest brewing before him. Sarah's stomach twisted at the thought. If there was ever a moment for courage, it was now. "Mr. Dalton." She called out, surprising herself with the volume of her voice. The restaurant went silent, the tension palpable. For a moment, time appeared to pause. The other patrons looked on, curiosity sparking in their eyes. He glanced up, annoyance crossing his features. What do you want? I have a few complaints about your service, he sneered, as if the air around him had thickened with entitlement. No, sir. We have a complaint about how you treat us, Sarah declared, stepping forward with her colleagues joining her. You don't have the right to speak to anyone the way you do. We're not your servants, we're people with lives and families. The air crackled as her words cut through the silence. The other waiters stood strong. We won't accept this behavior anymore, one of her coworkers chimed in, emboldened by Sarah's courage. As murmurs of agreement rippled through the staff, Sarah's spirit soared. It felt as though a dam had burst within them all. They shared a glance, that unbreakable bond forged through countless nights of toil and pain. Mr. Dalton's face darkened. You think you can challenge me? I'll have your jobs. He spat, his voice dripping with venom. But Sarah stood her ground, feeling her heart drum even louder against her ribs. You can try, but we are more than just this job. We are a team, and you can't break us. She shouted, her voice echoing with such fervor that it shocked even herself. For the first time, people began to clap. A few patrons arose from their tables, rallying behind the unseen strength of the waitstaff. The applause grew, reverberating around the lavish room as if igniting a fire. Sarah felt a swell of emotions: excitement, fear, and an unimaginable elation rising within her. But then she noticed her coworkers' expressions change from defiance to uncertainty. Had they gone too far? What are you doing? One of them whispered, glancing nervously back at the cheering crowd. We could lose everything. The support from the patrons was a double-edged sword. It gave them strength but also escalated the risk. They stood at a precipice, and Sarah knew a decision had to be made. The empowerment in the room felt electric, but the reality of their situation loomed over them like an impending storm. Listen, she started, looking around at her friends. We can't let fear stop us now. This is our moment. But would they embrace that moment, or retreat into the shadows as fear crept back in? Sarah's pulse raced. What if they turned back now? What if this was the tipping point that could change everything? In the charged silence, she awaited their response, breathless and filled with a mix of panic and hope. Would the waitstaff together walk into the storm and fight? Or would they falter and allow the darkness of Mr. Dalton to swallow them whole? With so much at stake, the choice hung in the balance, leaving everyone in agonizing anticipation. Silence draped over the restaurant like a heavy blanket, thick with tension. Sarah felt every eye on her, and in that heart-stopping moment, she lifted her chin, searching the faces of her fellow waitstaff. Beneath the worry, a flicker of defiance ignited in their eyes. They were more than just names on a schedule, they were a family forged through late-night shifts and shared struggles. Are we really going to let him intimidate us? Sarah's voice rang out, stronger now, rousing something deep within her coworkers. We don't have to take this. We've worked too hard, sacrificed too much. A murmur of agreement rippled through the group. Just behind her, Jimmy, the newest waiter, nodded vigorously, his cheeks flushed with the thrill of rebellion. He spoke up, yeah. If we stand together, he can't do anything to us. We have rights. Encouraged by his words, the entire team seemed to grow taller. The audience in the restaurant leaned in closer, some even whispering in anticipation, sensing the unfolding drama. Mr. Dalton's expression morphed from annoyance to bewildered outrage, like a storm cloud gathering all at once. Rights? He scoffed, his contempt palpable. You think you have rights here? This is my restaurant, and I can fire you on a whim. Then go ahead, Sarah shot back, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Fire us. But know this: we won't be silenced anymore. If you do, we'll spread the word. People won't come here to be treated poorly by a bully. The clapping intensified, buoying her courage. Patrons around the room shook their heads, echoing unspoken support. The strength of numbers was tangible. It sent a current through Sarah, revitalizing her spirit. They were a collective force now. Suddenly, someone from the back shouted, "We stand with you." A woman from another table raised her glass, and moments later, it became a wave of cheers and support. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as the ambient roar surrounded her. Damar. Dalton's face twisted in rage, his fists clenched. "How dare you? You'll regret this." But before he could utter another threat, the manager of the restaurant, an older gentleman named Mr. Harris, stepped forward. His gray hair shone under the soft lights, a halo of authority mixed with grace. "Enough," he commanded, his voice steady. "You will not talk to my staff this way, Mr. Dalton. I have tolerated your behavior for too long. Your treatment of them is unacceptable. I will not allow it anymore." A wave of disbelief washed over the group, then elation as their sanctuary, their boss, upheld them. It felt like a tide turning. "What do you expect me to do?" Dalton barked, but Mr. Harris, unmoved, stood firm. "I expect you to leave. Now." The venom on Dalton's face morphed into disbelief. He opened his mouth to protest, but the fury in Mr. Harris' glare silenced him. The waitstaff exchanged incredulous looks, some covering their mouths in disbelief. Could this really be happening? But just as hope blossomed, another thought crept in. What if their newfound bravery only stirred the storm further? What if retaliation was harder to endure than they'd imagined? As Mr. Harris escorted Mr. Dalton from the restaurant, a sense of raw vulnerability gripped Sarah. Her legs felt like they might buckle beneath her. "What happens now?" she whispered, half to the air and half to Jimmy, who stood next to her, eyes wide with anticipation. "Whatever it is, we face it together," he replied confidently, and somehow, that felt like a promise that wrapped around them. Just then, the restaurant erupted into cheers, drowning out the uncertainty. But as the applause roared in the background, deeper questions loomed like shadows in their minds. What would their world look like after this? Would they still have jobs tomorrow? Would this courageous stand become their beacon or a bullseye for retribution? The victory felt sweet, but the threats weren't far behind. And as Sarah gazed at her friends, a mix of hope and fear pooled in her chest. The night had changed everything, but at what cost? With Mr. Dalton gone, and a newfound strength awakening among them, it was time to confront the truth of their new reality. Would they be able to keep their unity strong against what was yet to come? Would they find their way, or would the storm be unrelenting? The question hung in the air, heavy and electrifying, as they stepped deeper into this unforeseen journey. The air buzzed with energy, a mix of relief and anxiety swirling around the restaurant. As cheers echoed, the staff began to embrace one another, tentative smiles breaking through the tension like sunlight after a storm. Sarah felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a strange mix of triumph and fear. But would they still be standing after the dust settled? Jimmy, practically bouncing on his toes, turned to Sarah. "Do you think he'll really go through with firing us?" "I don't know," Sarah replied, her stomach nodding. "But we can't let ourselves be scared. Not again." Meanwhile, Mr. Harris, still standing tall amid the throng, was the beacon they needed. "This won't go unnoticed," he declared firmly to the now empty doorway. "I will talk to corporate about Mr. Dalton's behavior. This restaurant has to be a safe space for everyone." His words propelled a sigh of relief through the crowd, yet shadows lingered just beyond the light, whispering doubts. Could they trust that the change would last? As the final echoes of applause faded, the once bustling restaurant lashed out in nervous energy. Sarah caught sight of the dipping sun through the dark glass windows, an ending that ominously felt like a beginning. The team huddled together around their tables, even as couples and families resumed their meals. Bits of laughter mixed with the genuine worries expressed in hushed tones, their camaraderie wrapped them in a protective embrace. But as Sarah looked around, she caught the eye of Lena, a veteran waitress with whom she shared countless late shifts. "Sarah, what are we going to do if he retaliates?" Lena's voice was barely above a whisper, but the tremor in it was unmistakable. Sarah took a deep breath, gathering strength from the unity they just felt. We have to be ready. If this thing escalates, we need a plan. Her pulse quickened as she thought about how to protect their sanctuary. Across the room, Jimmy, his enthusiasm still barely contained, chirped, "Maybe we should call social media. Everyone should know how horrible he treated us. If we stand united on this, who knows the support we could gain." "Good idea," Lena replied, her eyes lighting up. "We can create a petition or something." But she hesitated, her brow furrowing. "We need to remember that not everyone will be as supportive when they hear about the fallout." The group exchanged looks filled with understanding this wasn't just about defending themselves. It was about facing the unpredictable future together. As they rooted through their ideas, Sarah's thoughts wandered back to Mr. Harris. He had stepped up when it mattered the most, but would he still be their ally when the dust settled? Her mind raced, reflecting on the weight of expectations resting upon him. "All right," Sarah said, snapping herself back to the space around her. "Let us draft an email to Mr. Harris. He needs to know we stand behind him as much as he stands with us." They all nodded, energy crackling in the air anew. Laughter erupted, intermingled with genuine concern, their resolve tightening like a lasso. But as they started to put their thoughts down, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the early winds of a brewing storm. They were stirring a fight, and it wouldn't come without its casualties. What lengths would they have to go to protect this family they had forged? Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the world in a deep orange glow, even as shadows loomed larger. "We can't stay in hiding forever," Lena said, breaking the reverie. "And if we wait too long, we'll lose our chance. And if we act hastily, we risk everything," Sarah added, the weight of their decision settling in her stomach. A crackling silence fell over them, and Sarah's heart raced. She felt as if they were standing on the edge of a reality neither of them could fully comprehend. Would they rally together or splinter apart as the real battle began? Would their bonds be strong enough to withstand the fallout? The weight of their choices grew heavier, and as they faced the unknown, one question lingered: what if their greatest fight was just beginning? The fluorescent lights flickered above, casting an eerie glow on their assembled faces. Voices buzzed softly as the team gathered around a scattered array of tables, each one feeling like a lifeboat floating in troubled waters. Tension clung to the air, and the last remnants of the afternoon's laughter faded like echoes in a canyon. Sarah took a deep breath, grounding herself. "So, what's our first move?" Her hands rested on the table, palms flat, a beacon of calm. Lena seemed grateful for her presence, though doubt flickered behind her eyes. "Can we really count on Mr. Harris?" Jimmy broke in, his tone serious for once. "What if he goes back on his word?" The question hung heavy, and uncertainty prickled the air. Each of them wore a mask of determination, but inside, fear twisted like an insistent vine. "We can't waste time waiting for that. While he talks to corporate, we need to prepare ourselves," Sarah stated. "If we don't act now, the chance might slip through our fingers." The group nodded, their collective resolve starting to solidify. They began brainstorming strategies, scribbling notes and ideas on napkins that felt like maps charting a course through chaos. Then, a thought sparked in Sarah's mind. "Let us hold a meeting after our shifts tomorrow. We can gather everyone who wants to be involved." "Everyone?" Lena echoed hesitantly. "What if they don't want that? What if they're too afraid?" Drawing from her well of courage, Sarah replied, "Fear is natural. But if we can show them they're not alone, maybe we can build something different. We're stronger together, Lena." A muted excitement flickered in the room, but a shadow rustled just beyond the walls of their sanctuary. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were watching, waiting for them to stumble. The evening rush began, and their camaraderie took a back seat as the chaos of plates and orders filled the restaurant. Sarah fell into the rhythm, relying on instinct and teamwork, serving tables with fluidity. Yet, every laugh and comment exchanged felt like a reminder of the precariousness surrounding them. Midway through the shift, as they hurriedly cleared plates and took new orders, Sarah noticed something strange. The manager, Mr. Dalton, was furiously pacing at the entrance, his expression twisted with rage. Whispers began creeping through the staff, a chill settled in the pit of her stomach. What if he had caught wind of their plans? "We can't let him intimidate us," Jimmy urged, pushing through the bustling crowd. "We've fought too hard to back down now." But as they exchanged furtive glances, a realization hit Sarah: this came at a cost. They were all on his radar now, each of them a target. They couldn't count on silence to shield them any longer. The evening wore on, and with every passing minute, shadows of dread loomed larger. Then, a sharp clap rang through the air, and Sarah's heart dropped. Mr. Dalton stood at the center of the restaurant, demanding attention like a thunderstorm about to unleash its fury. "Everyone!" he shouted, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think your little rebellion is going unnoticed? You're all walking a thin line here. You can either work together as a team or face the consequences." His words sliced through the room, dispersing laughter and camaraderie as quickly as they had come. Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. It was one thing to have a silent enemy, but this was a declaration of war. The restaurant was a battleground, and he had just drawn the line. "We need to stick together," she whispered urgently to Lena and Jimmy, their faces paled. "No matter what he throws at us next, we can't let fear bind us. There are more of us than there are of him." The world around her faded as a spark of determination ignited in her heart. But what if that spark led to a confrontation worse than they ever imagined? What if they were confronted with more than just words? Would they rise to the occasion or crumble under pressure? As the doors swung open and customers filed in, oblivious to the brewing storm inside, Sarah clenched her fists, preparing for whatever lay ahead. The moment felt electric. Sarah's heart raced as she caught Mr. Dalton's eye, his glare piercing through the clamor of clinking glasses and chattering patrons. She couldn't shake the uncertainty hovering in the back of her mind. What had they unleashed with their plan? Orders flew in like arrows, each one cutting through the atmosphere. Jimmy darted around, taking a couple's order with a nervous smile, while Lena's fingers trembled as she filled water glasses at the bar. "Keep it together," Sarah muttered under her breath, a mantra more for herself than for them. With every passing minute, the restaurant buzzed with the din of dinner, but that buzz felt different, charged, almost apprehensive. Sarah observed her fellow waiters. Most were avoiding eye contact with Dalton, glancing down at their notepads as if their lives depended on it. The minute they shared their rebellion plans, reality set in, and doubt seeped like a slow poison. In a lull between tables, Sarah joined Lena in the back room, where they could catch their breath away from the chaos. "Are we doing the right thing?" Lena's voice was barely above a whisper. "What if he retaliates? We have to believe he won tea. We can't let him win by scaring us." Lena nodded, but her eyes told another story. They were mirrors of the collective fear swirling in the restaurant. Just as the anticipation tightened like a knot in Sarah's stomach, Mr. Dalton strode into the back area, his posture rigid and imposing. The air thickened. "Got a problem, ladies?" he probed, a smirk creeping onto his face. "Just discussing the menu," Sarah replied evenly, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Sure you weren't plotting some little uprising?" The chilling edge to his words sent the hairs on her neck standing. Lena's expression shifted from apprehensive to bold. "And if we were? What are you going to do about it?" Dalton's chuckle reverberated like a low growl. "You'd better watch your back, both of you. I own this place." He took a step closer, narrowing the space between them, and Sarah felt a rush of anger surge within her. "Maybe it's time you learn that places like this can't run on fear alone," Sarah countered, emboldened. She didn't know where that bravado came from, but it felt good. Dalton's mouth twisted into a snarl, then he turned, dismissing them as if they were flies buzzing in his ear. "Good luck with that." As he stormed back into the restaurant, Lena gasped. Sarah, do you think? But Sarah cut her off. No, we don't give him power. He wants us to be afraid, we can't let him. When the evening shift finally ended, Sarah felt the collective weight of their fears lift momentarily. They gathered in the parking lot, the cool night air offering solace. Tomorrow, she began, gathering their attention. We'll have the meeting. And I'm going to invite everyone. We need every voice if we're going to stand a chance against him. The group's energy shifted, hope replacing fear. They could transform this pressure into a collective strength, a community built on unity rather than division, but as they hugged goodnight, Sarah felt a twinge of doubt prick at her heart. What if Dalton got wind of their plans? The thought lingered ominously. Would they wake up to find their solidarity crushed, or worse, one of their own turn against them? Days had passed since they de-acknowledged their fight, but now, it was about to get real. As Sarah drove home, her mind raced, imagining all the possibilities of tomorrow's meeting. They were stepping into the unknown, and the thought shot a thrill of excitement through her. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of something much bigger than any of them could imagine. Would they be ready to face whatever came next? The sun barely peeked over the horizon, casting a soft glow that filled Sarah's room with warmth. She tossed and turned, sleep slipping further away with every tick of the clock. Today was the day. Her heart pounded, a mix of excitement and fear pulsing through her veins. The meeting wasn't just another gathering, it was a pivotal moment. After a quick breakfast, she pulled on her favorite sweater for a touch of reassurance. It was the color of a sunset, bold and bright, just like her resolve. As she stepped outside, the crisp morning air felt electric, almost as if the world was holding its breath. When Sarah arrived at the diner, the parking lot was a flurry of activity. Fellow waitstaff were trickling in, their faces a mix of worry and determination. They paused to exchange nervous glances but soon formed a small circle around Sarah, their leader for this moment. "All right, everyone," she began, her voice wavering slightly, but she steadied herself. "Today, we stand together. No more fear of Mr. Dalton. We have a plan." Just as hope started to hold its ground, another figure emerged: Jimmy. His face was pale, and he looked like he might run off at any moment. "You guys, I overheard Dalton talking to another manager last night. He knows about the meeting." She could hear the collective gasp ripple through the group. Panic set in, and Sarah fought against it. "We can't back down now. This is exactly what he wants," she urged, stepping closer to Jimmy. "If we let fear control us, we've already lost." Lena nodded, her voice gaining strength. "He can't chase us all away. Together, we are stronger than his intimidation." A quiet murmur of agreement surged around them. Sarah could see the flickers of confidence returning. They were here for each other. They had each other's backs, and together they could change things. "Let us spread the word. We need everyone here, servers, cooks, even the kitchen staff. We're all affected," Sarah continued, her voice growing steadier with each word. Slowly, as if they were shaking off a heavy weight, they began to break the circle and move about the diner, gathering everyone. Laughter and chatter filled the diner as they rallied together, sharing whispered plans of unity and rebellion. Yet, as the minutes passed, unease crept back into Sarah's mind. Was Dalton watching? Could he find out what they were planning? The atmosphere shifted when Mr. Dalton stormed through the front doors of the diner, interrupting their gathering. His presence alone sucked the light out of the room. The jovial chatter went quiet, and all eyes turned to him, braced for impact. "I hope you're not all wasting your time. This is a place for work, not for plotting schemes," he barked, a menacing smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Sarah's heart raced. This was the moment, the turning point. Did they have the courage to confront him? Before she could second-guess herself, she stepped forward. "We are plotting a better way to work together as a team, and you can't scare us anymore." The air was thick with challenge, and she felt her fellow workers shifting behind her, a solid wall of support. Dalton's eyes narrowed as he took in the row of defiant faces. "You're making a mistake," he warned, but something in his voice faltered. "I guess we'll find out, one we." Sarah shot back, adrenaline coursing through her. In that moment, she realized they were not just standing up against him, they were standing together. As Dalton stalked away, scowling, a sense of relief washed over the group, but as the door closed behind him, the questions loomed large. How would they react? Would they truly escape the grip of fear? With their resolve ignited, they turned to Sarah, awaiting her next move. What would she propose now, when everything still hung in the balance? As the door clicked shut behind Dalton, a mix of relief and anxiety pulsed through the diner. Sarah felt a surge of adrenaline, but also the weight of uncertainty settle over her. She looked into the faces of her coworkers, searching for the right words to keep their momentum alive. "Okay, we can't lose this energy. Let's rally around each other," she called out, her voice firmer now. "He may have power, but we have each other. We know what we're up against, and we need to act fast." Lena stepped forward, her brow furrowed in thought. "What's our plan? We can't just stand here. We have to be smarter than he thinks." Sarah nodded. "We need to gather evidence of his bullying and intimidation. If we come together, we can show the higher-ups that this treatment is unacceptable. Strength in numbers, right?" Jimmy, still looking a bit pale but now more resolute, chimed in. "I can get recordings from my phone. I overheard him talking to the kitchen staff about how we're replaceable." The group reacted with a mix of surprise and admiration. Ideas started to flow freely. Someone suggested documenting uncomfortable interactions or calling out unfair shifts. They were finally taking control, not just of their voices but of their futures. The diner's atmosphere shifted from tense to energized. They gathered in smaller huddles, exchanging ideas, brainstorming, and sharing strategies. Laughter punctured their worries, creating a solid bond of camaraderie. Sarah felt lighter, a hope blooming in her chest, but as the frenzy of planning rose, Sarah couldn't help but glance at the door. What if Dalton sent someone to check on them? What if he retaliated? She forced herself to focus inward, to ground the rising tide of anxiety. "Listen," she said, raising her voice again to cut through the chatter. "This is our chance. It's not just about us, it's about all the people who've come and gone, afraid to speak up. We can change that. Today starts our new story." Cheers erupted, and hands flew up for high fives and hugs. Sarah's heart swelled with pride. These were her people, and together they were stronger than any man's shadow. Just as she was beginning to imagine the possibilities, the door swung open again, this time more quietly. It was Sally, one of the older servers, with worry etched in her face. "I just heard the managers talking. Dalton's already planning something. He knows about our meeting." The chatter dimmed as the weight of her words settled over them. Fear rolled back in as quickly as it had dissipated. Sarah felt her pulse quicken, and she could see the apprehension reflected in her team's eyes. "No, this isn't how it ends," she declared, stepping back to the center. "Sarah, what do we do now?" Lena asked, her voice trembling slightly. With the pressure mounting and threats looming, Sarah's thoughts raced. They couldn't let Dalton use their unity against them. "We don't let him intimidate us. We escalate. We start recording. We take pictures. We'll document everything and fight back legally." The determination ignited again, overcoming the fear and uncertainty that threatened to pull them back. They were ready to protect their lives, their community, and their dignity. As they gathered around Sarah once more, pledging their support and commitment, she turned her gaze to the door. With the stakes rising, every moment mattered. What if Dalton escalated things further? As much as they banded together now, would it be enough? Somewhere inside, Sarah felt a storm brewing. This was just the beginning, and she knew the next move could change everything. "Let's get to work," she said, swallowing hard. "But first, we need to figure out what Dalton is planning." And with that, A new quest unfolded before them, a journey where their fears would face an even greater test. They gathered in a tight circle, the tension palpable. Faces drawn together, some anxious, others decisively set. Sarah could almost taste the determination in the air. They needed to act fast. "Okay, we start documenting everything," she said, pacing slowly. "We buy a notebook and each of us will keep track of experiences, things Dalton says, how he treats us. Every instance of intimidation, we write it down. We need dates, times, and witnesses. This will build our case." Lena nodded vigorously. "I can create a shared document online. Everyone can add their experiences. We can keep it anonymous if anyone is scared." "What about the recordings?" Jimmy piped up again, his previous nerves now overshadowed by anger. "I'll record him talking to customers and the staff. I'll get the proof we need." "Perfect." Sarah beamed, feeling the energy surge again. It was a glorious flicker of hope amidst the flaring flames of anxiety. "But we also need to meet somewhere safe. It can't be here at the diner. It's too risky." A murmur swept through the group, then Sally spoke up, "How about my house? It's off the beaten path, and it won't draw attention. Plus, my kids are at their grandparents' this week." "Let us do it," Sarah agreed, her heart racing with gratitude. "Thank you, Sally. And we should plan to meet tonight. Everyone will bring what they've logged so far. If Dalton S. found out, we can't just sit here waiting for him to make his next move." As they set about their tasks, each person's spirit seemed to lift. Laughter broke out again as they shared stories, each one fueling their resolve. Sarah watched as they broke off into twos and threes, every face brightened by the smallest flicker of hope. It struck her that this was what community felt like, as if each of them were threads woven together, creating an unbreakable bond. Hours slipped by, a blur of conversation and planning, until, finally, the sun dipped below the horizon. Sarah felt the weight of the day start to ease. They had formed a battle plan, but one glance toward the door reminded her of the threat that still loomed. She could feel her heart quicken as she thought of Dalton and what he might be plotting. "Okay, we've worked hard today," Sarah announced. "Now it's time to go home, rest, and come back ready to fight." She turned to Jimmy and Lena, who looked a little uneasy. "Don't let fear take root, all right? He might think he's winning, but he can't take this from us." As they stepped outside, the cool air was a welcome relief. Still, an unsettling feeling lingered like a dark cloud. Sarah glanced around the parking lot. What if Dalton had someone watching? "Keep your eyes peeled, and don't trust anyone who looks suspicious," she advised, her tone stern but supportive. They exchanged quick hugs, backing up into their cars, each of them promising to keep in touch. Later that evening, as Sarah sat alone, back in her small apartment, she picked up her phone and reread the messages from her coworkers. Everyone was excited, sharing their notes and agreeing on their meeting for later. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that Dalton was plotting something sinister. The clock ticked louder than usual, each second stretching painfully slow. Should she have done more? What if everything they'd planned fell apart? A sudden knock on the door jolted her from her thoughts. Heart racing, she froze. Was it a surprise visit from a coworker? Or could it be someone sent by Dalton? Cautiously, she approached, her mind racing with questions. Who could it be, and what were they here for? She opened the door, her breath catching in her throat. Standing at the door was Mr. Harris, the restaurant manager, his eyes brimming with urgency. "Sarah, we need to talk." The tension in his voice was unmistakable, her heart raced. "What is going on? Is it about Dalton?" He nodded, stepping into her modest apartment, closing the door quietly behind him. "Yes. I heard whispers. He's planning to fire several of you, using the meeting as a pretext. It's a power play. He thinks he can scare everyone into silence again." A jolt of rage coursed through Sarah. "We're not going to let him. We've come too far." Harris took a deep breath, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. I believe in what you're trying to do. I just don't know how much longer I can shield you from Dalton's influence. He thinks I'll back down, but I won't. However, I want to prepare you for fallout. Legal claims could come with consequences. Sarah swallowed hard, the weight of his words settling in her chest. She felt both terrified and resolute. We won't back down. We're united. Harris's gaze softened. Good. I'll back you up. I want you to win this. I'll document everything I can and will support you in presenting this to corporate. Hope sparkled in the corners of her mind. This was not just a battle for their jobs, it was about changing a culture of fear. Tomorrow, then. We have to be ready. As they strategized long into the night, a sense of purpose filled the room. They were no longer a scattered group of waiters but a formidable team fighting for respect, dignity, and each other. Suddenly, the pieces began to fall into place. The next day arrived draped in a palpable tension, thicker than the thickest fog. Sarah walked into the diner, her heart racing as she spotted her coworkers gathered, visibly worried but determined. They had come together and forged notes and plans, all eager to fight for what was theirs. Sarah stepped to the front and took a deep breath, grounding herself in the resolve of this newfound family. Listen up. Dalton thinks he can intimidate us, but he is wrong. We're here together. We document every interaction, every intimidation, and will present it. We fight as one. With nods and murmurs of agreement, their collective strength surged through them. She caught sight of Jimmy's supportive smile and Lena's resolute nod. They were ready. The lunch rush began, and with it, the first test of their united front. Dalton stalked through the dining area, his presence clashed with their determination. His glare swept over the group, expecting a trembling response, but Sarah had never felt more empowered. She approached him, flanked by her cohort. We're here to do our jobs, Mr. Dalton. We won't be belittled. Dalton sneered, desperation creeping through his haughty demeanor. Do you think I care about your feelings? You're all replaceable. We may be replaceable to you, Sarah retorted fiercely, but we are not insignificant. We deserve respect. The weight of her words hung in the air as the onlooking patrons began to shift their eyes, murmurs filling the room. Someone from the back clapped, another joined in, and soon, the restaurant erupted into cheers. Sarah felt goosebumps rise on her arms. The tide was turning. In that moment, Mr. Harris stepped forward, hand outstretched to hold up a small document. This is a list of complaints against Mr. Dalton amassed over the last few weeks. I'm taking this to corporate. We're not standing by anymore. For the first time, uncertainty flickered through Dalton's facade. He opened his mouth, but the words that came out were swallowed by the applause of patrons. Support unwavering. As Dalton stormed out in a fit of rage, an overwhelming relief washed over the restaurant. Sarah and her coworkers embraced, tears of joy and the thrill of victory spilling over. They had faced fear and emerged unbroken. They had transformed the storm into a powerful current propelling them forward, united in their humanity. In the aftermath, Sarah reflected on the journey. They would all face challenges, this was just the beginning. But they had proven that when people come together, when love and courage swirl in harmony, even the darkest forces can be challenged. Together, we are unstoppable, she whispered with conviction. And as they stood together in the glow of newfound hope, Sarah knew they had changed not just their destinies but sparked something beautiful, a sense of community that would shine bright for those who walked through the doors of La Lumière from here on out. Now, it was their turn to share their story and inspire others. The struggle had forged more than resilience, it had transformed hearts. So, what are you waiting for? You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about this incredible journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.